Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records. And another day of Monday with Miles Davis. And today we're focusing on the live album, Jazz at the Plaza. So this was recorded on September 9th, 1958. This wasn't released until like September of 73. So this was a party at a party room in the Plaza Hotel in New York City. Okay, it was recorded because it was an executives party, and they just wanted to document it for Columbia, but was never really meant to be released. There was other notables there: Jimmy Rushing, Duke Ellington's band, and Billie Holiday. Pretty good foursome. This is notable for being a representation of Miles's sextet featuring Jimmy Cobb on drums, who had joined like in May of 58, Paul Chambers on bass, but then we have Bill Evans, who had just joined the band as well, like in the spring, May of 58, and then Julian Cannonball Adderley and John Coltrane. So in February of 58, Julian and Coltrane were back in the band and recorded Milestones with Red Garland and Philly Joe Jones. Basically, Philly's kind of replaced in May, and Red Garland decides to move on, and that's where Bill Evans steps in. Bill Evans is a modal player. He has classical instincts, and that's intriguing to Miles. And Miles learned a lot from Bill Evans. What this album suffers from is production. And you'll notice just in the opening track, Miles's horn is so upfront in your face on the first notes of If I Were a Bell. And, it's amazing what happens at the 32-second mark as it falls out. So Miles is Technicolor, 4D, in-your-face, bright horn, and then it falls out. And it falls out for the rest of the record. I don't know what happened here. But the saxophone players are recorded very well. The drums are recorded halfway decently. It sounds like there was 2 or 3 mics. Again, this was not meant to be a live album. There was 2 or 3 mics on stage. You can barely hear Paul Chambers on this album. Some of the piano playing you can't hear very well, and drumming, but some of it's great. So we're going to get into this thing track by track a little bit. Again, Tio Mercero is a producer. Jazz at the Plaza, September of 58. If I Were a Bell opens up. Again, Miles comes out strong. But then you lose the sound. Saxophone players are fantastic. And let me say something about the combo of Cannonball Adderley and Coltrane. I mean, they work so well together. There's, Cannonball's kind of known for his funkier blues playing as he becomes a leader, but here it's boppy, it's bebop, it's fantastic playing. And it's just as intricate as Coltrane's. He's playing alto, Coltrane's playing tenor. That's the only way that you can tell a difference between the two players. I mean, maybe Coltrane's playing is a little more transcendent, but both of them have languid, spiraling ideas that never end. Their ideas don't end until they finally say, hey, I'm going to quit playing, and maybe there's a piano solo. It's just fantastic. They never run out of ideas. They have to stop at points to take breaths, but it's just to take a breath, not because they've run out of an expression or an idea. Again, endless ideas, recording issues on the trumpet, but it shows the power. This is a document of the power of that sextet that was not recorded very often. They would go on to do jazz track. On May 26th of 58, they had recorded jazz track with the sextet. It was the first thing they did. Then they did this. They do Kinda Blue. Of course, Wynton Kelly steps in and does stuff. You know, Bill Evans is only in the band for 8 months. He does his touring for 8 months with Miles, and he's gone. He's invited back for Kinda Blue. God, what a band with Evans in it. Evans takes a great solo at the 5:52 mark. It just tells you a lot about his greatness. Thoughtful, precise, not scared. You know, he's just one of the greatest players of all time. Aleo's next. It's a Sonny Rollins tune. You know, it's fantastic also. Cannonball really shines on Aleo. You know, is he underrated? Is he an underrated sax player? We always hear about Sonny Rollins. We always hear about Wayne Shorter. We always hear about Charlie Parker and, of course, Coltrane. Cannonball Adderley is a monster. And in this band, you have a two-headed sax monster, and you got one of the greatest piano players for me. You know, I'm a big Brad Meldau fan nowadays, so check out Brad Meldau if you don't know his playing currently. Meldau is absolutely influenced by Evans, and it's just beautiful playing. Check out the Tony Bennett couple albums, vocal albums that he does with Bill Evans from the 70s. Cobb fits right in here on Aleo. You know, he's taken over for Philly Joe Jones, who's one of my favorite drummers. Jimmy Cobb says that he's influenced by Max Roach. He's a great drummer. Maybe underappreciated as well. Chambers can barely be heard. But what you can hear is great. You know, again, if somehow they could have cleaned up the recordings or made Miles louder, maybe that's doable with technology nowadays. It'd be great to reissue this. But even as it stands alone, you'll go online and read people ripping this up. This is amazing, just not recorded great. My Funny Valentine does not have any sax in it. It shows a perfect example of a quartet with Miles, Chambers, Cobb, and Bill Evans. And it's fantastic that there is no Coltrane and Cannonball on it, because it just shows you a quartet version of this band. And one of the only recordings of it. You know, again, the Columbia executives are sitting there with their wives. I can't imagine with the beauty and the gorgeousness of this song, signature Miles cover, what those wives of those executives are thinking, because it's beautiful, beautiful, romantic music, as that song is one of my favorite standards of all time. You know, Evans again shining here. Bits of the classical, bits of the moto playing. Wish he would have stayed in the band longer. You know, a lot of these guys aren't staying in this band that long because they're so good on their own that they can go carve out their own career and not get, you know, the Miles Sidemen pay and go be their own leader. And that's what Bill Evans does. That's what Cannonball does. Of course, that's what Coltrane does not long after this, right? Miles comes in at the end, classy, perfection. Miles sounds really good on this song as opposed to If I Were a Bell. My Funny Valentine, one of the great songs. Straight No Chaser, Thelonious Monk song. Miles snaps his fingers like 9 times or 10 times before the band comes in unison. It's almost an 11-minute track. This is a 40-minute album. 4 songs, 40 minutes. Miles plays faster than normals. Evans comes in during his solo and quotes kind of Blue Monk from another Monk song. One of the best tracks as far as the audio quality on this album. You know, yes, Cannonball's playing alto. Yes, Coltrane's playing tenor, but man, sometimes I have a hard time telling who's playing. And that's a compliment to Cannonball Adderley. His playing is just awesome. And, you know, when you think about Miles Davis, Cannonball Adderley, John Coltrane, and Bill Evans in a band together, that's 4 of the greatest jazz players of all time in the same band. You know, It's like Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, and Clapton being in a band together. It's Mind-Blowing Solo by Coltrane. You know, again, it's hard to tell sometimes who's playing, but God, Coltrane can take it to another level. It's just fantastic. This is a great album. I decided to do something new for next week. So next week, instead of reviewing an album, we're going to talk about Miles Davis's early upbringing, childhood, influences, getting started, growing, being born in Alton, Illinois, moving down the river to East St. Louis for his childhood, going to high school, sitting in with bands over in St. Louis. We're going to talk about that next week on Monday with Miles. We're going to focus on some of his early recordings as a sideman. We're not going to get too deep into, we're going to get him up to Juilliard, and we're going to stop there, and then we'll probably pick up a record after that. Thanks for watching. Happy Memorial Day. Peace out. Subscribe to my channel. See ya.